What's up, y'all? Today I'll be predicting the Western Conference standings. Starting with number one, I have OKC. I think they easily just go back to the number one seed. They're a young team, so I don't see any championship hangover. They have an amazing core with Shea, Chet, and Dub. And Chet only played 32 games last season. So I think with him back, playing next to Hartenstein, they could easily win even more games than they did last year. You have even Dort in their supporting pieces with Dort, Case and Wallace, Alex Caruso, who just are amazing. Shea had a historic season where he wins MVP, Finals MVP, a scoring title, and a ring, which is just something I don't see him slowing down. Next is Houston. I have them dropping to the 3 seed. They add Kevin Durant. They obviously have young pieces like Amen Thompson, who is first team all defensive, who's only getting better. And then they have Fred VanVleet, who's out for the year, unfortunately. So they need some kind of substance from their younger guys to step up and play that leading starting point guard role. So you're going to see Reed to step up, Reed Shepard to step up. Amen has to run the one sometimes. And then Ime is already talking about how he's going to run this big lineup with Amen, KD, Jabari Smith Jr., Sengun, and Steven Adams, which, the Rockets were so good last season from their two big lineups, getting all the offensive boards. So I think they're in for a really good season, and obviously adding Kevin Durant. The Lakers ending third last season. I have them dropping to... wrong one. The Lakers ending third last season. I have them dropping to the 4th seed. I mean, you have a Luka team, so obviously you're not missing the playoffs, right? And now you have a Luka extension and a JJ Redick extension, so you're going to see what JJ Redick can do with a full year of Luka Doncic. They had some center depth that was struggling last season, but they added DeAndre Ayton for cheap, so you hope he can really fit that piece, and playing alongside Luka will help this team. You added Marcus Smart, who was a defensive player of the year at one time. So you even hope that he gets back to that, because the Lakers' defense is really struggling as well. But he only played 20 games in 2024 and 34 in 2025. So you hope he's a lot healthier. And then if Luka's healthy, you're in this playoff range. Next is the Denver Nuggets. That's what I have two. They had an amazing offseason where they added Jonas Valanciunas. So Jokic finally has a real quality backup center, which I think would just be so good for them. And you saw David Adelman even talking about playing them together. You add in Cam Johnson and Tim Hardaway Jr., which helps that shooting struggles that they have. They were last in 3-point volume last season. So adding those two guys, who Cam Johnson is shooting 7 a game, Hardaway Jr. is shooting 6 a game. So just that will bring up their overall offense. And you still have Jokic, who is already MVP level. He was in talks for MVP last season. So now with the best team around him, he's really going to make some noise. And you have David Adelman, who now has a full season with the team. He only had, a week and then the playoffs last season. So I think with a full season building around Jokic, he can definitely show that they're the 2 seed. The Clippers, I have at the 5th seed still. The Clippers had a pretty interesting offseason. The Kawhi situation, no one really knows about. But personally, I don't think it's going to affect the season. But if it does, he could be a free agent if they decided to avoid his contract. So if he ends up being a free agent, it will definitely shake some things. But they have Zubac, who really broke out last season. So you think he's due for an all-star season this season. You add in Bradley Beal, who's not a bad basketball player. He was just bad for $50 million. He had 17 points per game on 57% shooting, which is not bad for what he's on now, which is like $11 million. You add in Brook Lopez, who's a stretch 5 to play behind Zubac or even with Zubac. You lose Norman Powell, who is very important for them. He really broke out last season with them as a spark plug off the bench. And then this team's just old. Obviously, everyone knows that. You have Bradley Beal at 32, Harden 36, Kawhi 34, Brook Lopez 37, and then Chris Paul is 40. But I think just for this season, they can definitely make some noise and be in that playoff spot. Minnesota, I have 6th. On paper, the team got worse. Looking at their offseason moves, really all they did was lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But they have a lot of interesting pieces already on the team that you want to break out. You draft Berenger 17th, who is pretty okay in preseason so far, so we'll see where that goes. And you hope Rob Dillingham can jump up to that starting point guard to play besides Ant, because Ant has made a lot of moves in his game, but he still is not made to create offense completely by himself. So you hope that Rob can make that jump so Mike Conley can really step back, since he's already starting to be on the decline, since he's so old, obviously. And then they had back-to-back Western Conference Finals appearances, so you see with that momentum where that can take them. Next is Golden State. I have going 9th. This team is interesting. You had a pretty paused offseason because of the whole Kuminga deal, which you eventually bring him back on a 2-year, $48 million. So you want him to play and you want him to really be a part of this core. But obviously Steve Kerr doesn't really like playing him. We've already seen that. So we'll see where that goes. You also had center struggles like the Lakers. So you bring Al Horford in after the Kuminga deal. So you hope that can really help you. You lose Kevon Looney, who went to the Pelicans. So you hope that doesn't hurt too much. And then Jimmy Butler, who was very good for them last season. It added a whole new kind of offense around their game where it can help Steph Curry, it can help Draymond Green. So you hope that can continue through this season. I think if Jimmy Butler doesn't step up, they fall back to 11 or 12 where they were before Jimmy Butler. So next is the Memphis Grizzlies, who I think will go 10th. You add Ty Jerome, who was great for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So you hope he can be a good spark plug off the bench for you, playing with John Morant, obviously, because with the 2 leading guards over there, he was very good with them. And you hope Ja can play 70 to 75 games at least. Between suspensions and injuries, he hasn't played much in the last few years. So you hope he can get back to his all-star seasons from 22 and 23. Jaren Jackson Jr. made all-defensive second team. He was in the running for DPOY whenever Wemby went out. So you hope he can stay on that level. Thomas Isolo now has a full season after you fired Jenkins right before the playoffs. So just like the Nuggets, you hope he can really build this team the way that he wants it. But also, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey, and Brandon Clark are all injured going into the season. So you'll see what that starts out like and where it can go. The Kings. The Kings are a really weird team. I don't see much with the Kings. All they did was add Dennis Schroeder, who was great in Eurobasket. But honestly, I feel like everyone else got better and they kind of stayed the same, which I don't think is that good in the strong West. So I think they have interesting pieces, but their depth is very struggling. They have a starting 5 of Schroeder, Levine, DeRozan, Murray, and Sabonis. But after that, they don't really have much. So I think in this very competitive West, they don't really make a lot of noise. The Dallas Mavericks, I have them at the 8th seed. You have Kyrie Irving out until March, but you bring in D'Angelo Russell to bridge that gap, right? So while Kyrie Irving is out, you still have a good leading guard to bridge that until he can come back in March and then eventually to the playoffs. You have Cooper Flagg, who was drafted number 1 overall. So you hope he can live up to this generational talent label that everyone put on him. Anthony Davis, you hope he's healthy. He is a DPOY All-NBA ceiling if he's healthy still at this point of his career. And then the Dallas Mavericks have one of the deepest benches. They have Exum off the bench, Christie off the bench, Marshall, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, all off the bench. So I think this is a very interesting team because Kyrie is out. So you want to know where you can kind of replace him. And it all just depends on what Cooper Flag does look like as his first during his rookie season. Next is the Suns, which I have them going 12th. They also had an interesting offseason where they didn't do much. They traded Kevin Durant, which obviously we all knew was going to happen. They got back Dylan Brooks, who is a strong 3-and-D, and Jalen Green. And he had a pretty interesting season with the Houston Rockets, where he would go off for 25 one game and then 12 the next. So you don't know what you're going to get from him. But with Devin Booker still here, even 12 seems low. But just looking at who's above them, I don't see much with just a Devin Booker-led team. So I think this is going to be really interesting to see them play, because Devin Booker it seems like he's on his way out. They've done a lot of retooling phases around Devin Booker with the Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal. So you see that didn't pan out. They missed the playoffs last season. So you want to see if you can try with the Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks. They drafted Maluach. So you want to see how that really works with Devin Booker, and if Devin Booker will be your shooting guard for the future and for the rest of his career. And then obviously Bradley Beal is leaving, but you still have that money on the books because you had to stretch and waive him. So it's a very interesting situation that the Phoenix Suns are in. Next is Portland. I have them going 13. This was another team like the Kings where I was debating on where I should really put them, because I like Portland. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're obviously not a solidified playoff team, but even putting them 13 felt really low. But they add in Drew Holiday, who is a veteran guard. They got off of, Anthony Simons for Drew Holiday. So it's an interesting trade there, losing a young piece, but obviously the Celtics just wanted to get under the cap. They bring back Damian Lillard, who's injured, but between Drew and Dame, you have this veteran leadership in the guard room to help out Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, which you're going to hope they can make a jump. They were a great defense, gritty team, which is good to see. The Magic were that, and now they're a top 6 seed in the East. So you hope building around that can definitely raise them. They had Toumani Camara, who was second team all defense last year, who's just a great versatile defender. And then Klingon, who is an amazing defensively. So you want him to see another jump. And then they still have Denny Avdia, who might be in play for a most improved player season, which I think if he's in for that, they jump from 13 to 10. Next is the Spurs, who I put 7. It's hard for me to judge the Spurs, really. I could see them beating out Minnesota, beating out the Clippers, but I could also see them not having the season panned out for them like it did last year, where they dropped to the low of the play-in. But they did a lot of interesting moves this offseason. They added Luke Kornet and Kelly Olynyk to play backup minutes behind Wemby. So Wemby has a real backup to play with. They add Dylan Harper from the 2nd overall pick, which they have a lot of guard depth. They have Harper, they have Fox, and then they have their rookie of the year, Stephon Castle. So you want to see where that can go. Devin Vassell is in for a bounce back. He was pretty okay last season, but you hope he can get back to that. He went from 19 points per game to 16. So you hope he can kind of bounce back there. Victor Wembanyama, obviously, we all know he's only on the rise. So you want to see, they jumped from 13 seed to 7. So you want to see him get even better, because he was the unanimous DPOY before he went out with his injury. So you hope he can come back and go back to DPOY, even jump 5 to maybe top 5 in the league. And then they still had Carter Bryant, who they selected like 14th, which is just a steal of the draft. He brings them more defensive versatility. Next is the Pelicans, who I have 11th. Last season was just an injury-riddled season for them. There's not much that they could do about it. They had Trey Murphy playing 53 games. Herb Jones played 20 games. DeJounte Murray played 31 games, and now he's going into the season with an Achilles injury. Jose Alvarado played 56 games. And then Zion Williamson obviously played 30 games. But in those 30 games, he was really good. He averaged 25, 7, and 5. So you hope with a full season, he can get better and even stay at that level, just healthier. You add in Poole, who replaces McCollum. They have very similar numbers, but he's just younger. You have a younger core now. Yeez Missy, who had a really good rookie season last year with dealing with all the injuries, jumping into starting spots here and there. And then Jeremiah Fears as your 7th pick, who will play around Poole, play around Trey Murphy. So you'll see how much you want to play him. And then last is the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz is very interesting. I don't see them doing much. They have an interesting rebuild where I just think they're stuck at the bottom. They do get Ace Bailey, who was their 5th pick, but he was projected 3rd. Obviously, with all the draft stuff, he slipped. But you hope that can kind of bring you out. But I think this West is so deep. You know, that last year, the 2nd seed and the 8th seed were all 4 games apart. So it's very hard to climb in the West. And then they lose Clarkson, Collins, and Sexton. So you hope that won't hurt you too much. They add in Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love, Niang, and Nurkic. So they're not making very big moves. You know, it's just a bunch of role players getting moved around, really. They have a few. I mean, the only promising pieces that I think they have is Lauri Markkanen, who is a great basketball player, but he's just dropped off in the last 2 years. After making his most improved player and all-star game jump, he hasn't really done much. Last year, he only played 47 games. They have Kyle Filipowski, who you hope can make a jump, Isaiah Collier, and Ace Bailey and Juan Clayton Jr. So they're not really doing much. So I think in this tough West, they're just stuck at the bottom. All right, guys. Thank y'all for watching. Let me know what y'all think. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe.